63 games into the season, and perhaps the biggest storyline right now for the Giants in the season as a whole is the breakout that we're seeing from Heliot Ramos. Not necessarily the guy we expected to have this kind of breakout season. And he helped the Giants yesterday get a huge win to snap a 6-game losing streak back on the winning track.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, been hosting Locked On Giants for over 5 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. So check us out there if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And coming up on today's show, the start of this show is definitely going to be about one Mr. Heliot Ramos, who just, was already having a season worth talking about, but he absolutely took it even to another level in this game, going 2 for 2. You're like, okay, 2 for 2 with 4 walks and a home run. And the home run he hit he already had an impressive home run in this series. And when I say impressive, I mean very impressive. It was to right center, pretty much the toughest kind of area for a right-handed hitter to hit a ball in this ballpark, Chase Field in Arizona. And both times it went over that super high kind of center field wall. And the one he hit yesterday to kind of the left of center, I wouldn't call it left center, but it was like center field, left of dead center. And it was a 424 foot blast, 108 miles an hour off the bat. And Ramos is playing good, really good defense in the corners. Right now he's playing left, every day. And that's one of the things here is that Bob Melvin, unlike Gabe Kapler, is letting him play, and the Giants are being rewarded here. And Ramos on the season now with this game, I mean, the 4 walks to me are fantastic. And we're going to look at kind of the chase rate and the declining chase rate for him over the 3 seasons. Each of those seasons before this year, he's not played a lot, and he's played a lot more this season. But so he's hitting 304. This is in 26 games, 108 plate appearances, by the way. So it is a small sample. I'll point out some of the, not red flags, but indicators of unsustainability to some of this. But end of the day, hitting 304 with a 407 on base. So you love to see when that on base percentage is over 100 points higher than the batting average, and a 511 slugging. So when you could do 300, 400, 500, you're doing something really well. And as a result, weighted runs created plus, WRC plus, 100 is league average offense, and he's at 166. No surprise. What we've seen from Ramos has been way above average offense. And the expected numbers are a little bit worse than the actual numbers, but they're still quite good. A weighted on base average of 400 with an expected weighted on base average of 369. So 369 is still exceptionally good. I mean, maybe not exceptionally good, but it's very, very good. 400 is just what he's doing, which is about 66% above average offense. And the one thing that I'll point out is right off the bat, when I look for sustainability, he's got a 434 batting average on balls in play. And that's going to come down by about 100 points. Nonetheless, what we're seeing is, and one more thing, his strikeout rate is 31.5%. So that's actually right in line with his career strikeout rate. I mean, basically, he's played in he has 190 career plate appearances. 108 of them have come this year. So it's not a surprise that what he's done this year kind of makes up most of what his overall numbers are, except not really. Like his average this year, for example, 304 and career average 238. So that just goes to show you how poor the performance was in the parts of the other two seasons that he has played. But now in his major league career, he's got an 11% walk rate, and this year it's at like 14%. And so the patience, in addition to just hitting the ball hard with consistency, has been extremely impressive. And then you add to that defense and athleticism. This guy is only 24 years old. The Giants drafted him with their first round pick, 19th overall in 2017. So he's been in the system forever. 2017 played rookie ball. And so, here we are, 2024, many, many, many years later, and he's finally getting a real opportunity and he's running with it. He's absolutely running with it. And like I said, there are some good storylines. I think Jordan Hicks and the transition from the bullpen, he's been historically a reliever and to being a starting pitcher, and he's been, arguably the Giants' best starter, maybe. I mean, Webb, obviously, but Jordan Hicks, certainly their second best starter, if not their best. I'll have to look closer at, the numbers, but, and it wasn't a great outing yesterday for Hicks. The umpire was squeezing him the whole game. But regardless, I mean, Heliot Ramos, +7 defensive runs saved in just 217 and 2/3 innings in the outfield this season, +2 fielding runs above average per StatCast. This is like a derivative of outs above average. And then ultimate zone rating is 2.2 runs above average. So basically, I mean, I've seen it with my eyes. So have you. He's thrown runners out. He's kind of been athletic in a corner outfield spot, which we've seen the opposite of a lot in recent years when we've seen like the likes of Jock Peterson out there, Darren Ruff out there, Michael Conforto out there, Mitch Haniger out there. But suddenly you got a guy with kind of, he was a center fielder for a lot of his minor league career. I'd have to look, and maybe I should and will look at how his kind of sprint speeds are and such. Sprint speed 71st percentile per StatCast, and fielding the arm strength 73rd percentile, and overall fielding run value 81st percentile. And so really the only thing he's not doing really well at is he's striking out a little bit, but you kind of don't notice it because of how well he's doing in every other facet of the game. And so look, it's early. I want to kind of pump the brakes a little bit and not say, I don't think it's time to get like, okay, this guy's like an all-star level player. But, I love what Bob Melvin is doing, which is just letting him play every day and not platooning him. Gabe Kapler definitely platooned Heliot Ramos. But Bob Melvin's just saying, hey, you're playing well, you're going to keep playing. And they need that. And he has provided a huge spark. And he, the home run he hit in this game was big in helping them win the game, in that it was a 2-run homer. They were down 1-0, and it started, it started a 6-run inning where all six batters came up and all 6 of them scored, capped by a grand slam by Wilmer Flores. And then the next batter reached base as well. And so, no, they had 8 straight guys reach base. They had 8 straight guys reach base in that third inning. So it was a huge game for Ramos, but a huge win for the team. So coming up in just a minute, we'll get into kind of the win and what it meant and where the Giants stand now that they won this game instead of lost it. And then we'll ultimately look at kind of summarizing where we are, because it's, not so much a small sample anymore. We are at 63 games. We have less than 100 remaining, 99 remaining. And so we're going to take a step back and look at overall team trends this deep into the season. So we'll get into all of that in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members, myself included. It is the most fun and exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. With Prize Picks, you can turn $10 into 1,000 in a single game watching your favorite players this summer. You can make a Prize Picks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're locked in. For me, I've got mine right here. If you're on YouTube, you can see this. I've got more than 1.5 total bases for Aaron Judge tonight, and I've got more than 0.5 stolen bases for Ellie De La Cruz today versus the Cubs. And a $20 entry would win 75 if both of those happen. And also this is available to play in California. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Download the app today, use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, here we go. We are going to get into the Giants snapping their awful 6-game losing streak, which followed a really hot streak. That's baseball, but it was, bad of them to not be able to continue any kind of momentum. They win 2 out of 3 against the Phillies, but then they lose the finale. Then they get swept by the Yankees, including blowing a 9th-inning lead in the finale there. And then they lose the first 2 against Arizona, the second of which Bob Melvin called just an awful game and called out the team. And they've responded when he's done that. And so that's another contrast with Gabe Kapler, is kind of the fire of Bob Melvin and kind of the leadership quality and kind of firing up the troops. And he was really ticked off at the umpire, as I would have been too, based on that umpire's performance yesterday, squeezing Jordan Hicks the entire game, pitches that were in the strike zone that should have been strike 3, getting called balls. It was just a mess from a strike zone perspective. But anyway, thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow, I think we've got a lot of options on the table, and it's to be determined. We could either be meeting with Bryce from Locked On Rangers to talk about this upcoming series. We still have a plan to talk with Sully from Locked On MLB, and there's always the possibility of doing a mailbag. And so it's going to be one of those 3 things tomorrow, given that the Giants are off today and there will be no game to get into. So that'll be coming at you tomorrow, and we will be able to put out an episode. I know that they've been a little sporadic lately. I've had personal matters going on, and I hope and think that things should get back on track starting now. So I really appreciate your patience in that regard. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Fire TV Channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Reminder, you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Giants. So, the 6-game skid is finally snapped as the Giants win 9-3. They rough up Jordan Montgomery, kind of having, I don't want to say the same type of season as Blake Snell, but both of these guys signed late, and Montgomery now has a 6.80 ERA. Snell's is in the 9s, I think, now. And Montgomery also missed time to start the season. Snell is now on the injured list for the second time. The MRI, by the way, revealed that the strain in his groin was mild. And so that is, I guess, like a silver lining for the fact that that he is injured again. One of the things, too, to come out of this is that the Giants activated Austin Slater yesterday, and they optioned Luis Matos. And so this is one of those things where, like 2 weeks ago, everyone was, all the mailbag questions and whatnot were about what are they going to do when, Austin Slater and Michael Conforto are ready to return, because Luis Matos is playing so well and this, that, and the other. But, and my answer was continued evaluation. Oh, it was Marco Luciano too. And these things so often have a way of working themselves out. What happened was Matos went into a tremendous slump and Luciano got hurt. And Ahmed's not ready to come back yet, but if he was, right now you've got Casey Schmidt and Tyler Fitzgerald on the roster. So the question continues, like what happens when Nick Ahmed is ready to return? Well, the answer I'm going to give you is we need continued evaluation day by day of Casey Schmidt and mostly Casey Schmidt because Tyler Fitzgerald plays more than just shortstop, whereas Casey Schmidt's just playing short. He could probably, also fill in at second, but Matt Chapman's playing every day at third. And so I guess every now and then you're going to give him a day off and Schmidt could play there. But yeah, so for regarding Matos, Bob Melvin said that he's not here, but he's still a big part of this team. He'll be back. And so I do believe in Matos long term. I think he was talking Luis Matos. Yeah, he was talking about Matos there. So yeah, so Slater comes back, and again, I get it. Maybe you want if Matos is not going to play every day, he needs to be playing every day. So it's better for him to go down to the minor leagues and play every day and get out of this funk that he's in. And Slater, for him, his role is kind of, just against left-handed pitching for the most part. And they've got a couple of guys in Mike Yastrzemski and Michael Conforto that could use, a platoon partner at times. And depending on which one of them's playing better, and Slater started off that 6-run inning with a rocket single to right. And so, he hasn't had a good start to his season, and he obviously missed some time there with a concussion, but to me, it's good to have him back. He's been one of the most impactful hitters against left-handed pitching, in like basically since he came into the league, but particularly since he changed his swing prior to the 2020 season. There's almost nobody better numbers wise against left-handed pitching since 2020 than Austin Slater. If you set the minimum to like what his actual playing time has been over that span. And in terms of pinch hitting, there's literally like no one been better. If you set it to a minimum of 100 pinch hit plate appearances, there's no one who's been better in like the history of baseball than Austin Slater. And that's because he's being put into situations where he's facing lefties. It's also because it's somewhat of a small sample. Also, not that many guys have that many pinch hit opportunities, and platooning is more of a modern thing. So there's a lot of reasons for that, but it's just to say he doesn't stink. When he's right, he's a dangerous bat to have in there against the lefty. Case in point, Bob Melvin puts him in the leadoff spot despite the struggles that he's had coming into this game this season. It's a small sample for Slater, but he's back. Just updating you, Snell, goes on the injured list. We knew that, but the MRI revealed that it was more mild, so that's good. We'll see what happens there. Keaton Winn is on a rehab assignment through 62 pitches, and Bob Melvin said he expects him to make his next start with the Giants. And so Keaton Winn coming back soon, that's big because right now they have 2 open spots in the starting rotation. But all in all, I think injuries have just played a big part in their season. Like just the fact that they're 30-33, which is their record after this win. Injuries have played a significant role in that. Like we don't know exactly what their record would look like if they were more healthy. Imagine like a Blake Snell, more similar to last season, and you're adding quite a bit there. A Snell who's on the field, and Michael Conforto, so many guys, Nick Ahmed, Patrick Bailey, a couple times with concussions. Right now, Lamont Wade Jr., that's a huge loss. And so they're kind of hanging in there, and I think that's all they need to do for the most part right now is just tread water. Obviously, you want to get to that 500 mark, get above it, kind of pull above it, and they were doing that, and then they went on this 6-game losing streak. So right now, nonetheless, they're just one game out of a playoff spot. There's just this huge cluster of teams, all within 2 games of each other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams within 2 games of each other for that third, for even the second wild card spot. Forgive me, for second through, the Cubs, the Padres. The Padres are the third wild card team right now, and they're one game under 500. And so that just goes to show you, like, this might be a battle to like 83 wins, or 84. One team, one or two teams are going to separate themselves, and that's all it's got to take. But right now, not nobody, but not enough teams have. There's openings here. And the Padres, I mean, they've lost 4 straight themselves. And so they had a chance to kind of run away with a spot there, and they didn't. And so the Giants, yeah, I mean, their playoff odds, according to Fangraphs, are at 30% ish. Zips, the projection system, is always a little higher than that on the Giants. So, maybe 40 something percent. But yeah, I mean, they just, all in all, there's 99 games left, and I don't really care what their odds are. They just need to go out there and play better. And if they do, then they have as good of a shot as any of those 7 or so teams or whatever fighting for a couple of spots there of getting in. And so they are off today, and then they go and play the Texas Rangers, who are the defending World Series champions, and yet Giants are 30-33, and the Rangers are 30-32. So basically the same record, essentially. One, half a game better for the Rangers because they've played one less game, and the Giants played one more and they lost. So these teams coming in with like basically the same kind of records, and I'll have to see, and maybe this will be a question for tomorrow, but like exactly if anyone's banged up on the Rangers right now, what the pitching matchups are. But yeah, it's just, to win the finale was big. Obviously, to snap the losing streak was big. It's at least the second time that Bob Melvin is kind of, oh, in game 1, by the way, it's Logan Webb and Michael Lorenzen, who has an ERA that's essentially identical to Webb's, which is surprising to me. And then it's TBD versus TBD for the next 2 games of the series. Then the Astros come into town. So I'm like looking ahead here, and the Astros are struggling this season, but still a dangerous team. And then an off day at home, which will be good. And then the Angels coming into town. So, and the Angels are not very good, and Mike Trout is hurt. And so, there's some, this isn't the worst stretch of the schedule here. And so an opportunity to get back on track and hopefully get healthier. Seems like, certain guys like Keaton Wynn and Austin Slater, Michael Conforto, like Nick Ahmed, I think is not too far away. He was on a rehab assignment, but he kind of felt his wrist didn't feel great on the rehab assignment. And so he's going to be limited for a little bit. And so, yeah, I mean, we may continue to see Tyler Fitzgerald and Casey Schmidt at that shortstop position, with Nick Ahmed out, Marco Luciano out with a hamstring strain as well. So that's not ideal. You're already on your third kind of string there. And then at first base, it was big to see Wilmer Flores come up with the grand slam. Jorge Soler hit a home run. He also hit a rocket with the bases loaded. That was just an incredible play was made. So anyway, I want to get to taking an evaluation, a hard look at the Giants through 63 games, given that is at this point like a significant chunk of games. But, having so many injuries obviously makes it somewhat tough to evaluate. Bob Melvin said the same thing the other day. But it's still a significant number of games, and so we'll take a look at the overall performance of the team in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by Game Time. I love going to games on the road. I've already done it numerous times this season, and Game Time is my go-to for buying tickets. I've been to San Diego, I've been to Los Angeles, Boston, Fenway Park, and Denver this season, and I plan on more. And with Game Time, I know 2 things for sure that I love. And one is that I get panoramic views from my seat, which is important, especially if I'm going somewhere I've never been before. And I had been to all the others, but Fenway Park I had never been to before. And so that is very useful. And also the lowest price guarantee, because sometimes you don't know, should I buy early? Should I buy late? Somewhere in between. But with the Game Time guarantee, you always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, as promised, we are going to get into just taking a look at the Giants after 63 games, given it is a significant sample and the injuries do play a role, but most teams deal with injuries. Giants have had more and more impactful ones, I would say, than the average team, but nonetheless, it's still worth taking a look at. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow, like I said, one of three things will either be crossing over with Sully or Bryce. Sully from Locked On MLB, Bryce from Locked On Rangers, or doing a mailbag episode. If we do mailbag, we'll put out a prompt on Twitter tonight, so be on the lookout for that if I can't arrange timing with Bryce or Sully. Also, a reminder, you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Giants. So, I got to get through this because sometimes I don't end up giving myself enough time. But so for the offense, I do just want to point out, like, despite all the concerns about the offense at various stages of the season, Giants come in with a team weighted runs created plus of 105, which means 5% above average offense. That is one percentage point higher than the Atlanta Braves, just to give you some context here. It's better than the Diamondbacks, better than the Twins, the Royals. These are teams with some, I mean, the Diamondbacks don't have a good record. The Braves do, the Royals do, the Twins do. Better than the Texas Rangers. Remember all the talk about Donnie Ecker and his impact and all that. Well, right now, this season, the Rangers are significantly worse, or they have been, than the San Francisco Giants offensively. Now, part of that, like I said, there are certain guys who are contributing to this number who aren't playing. Like Lamont Wade Jr. was putting up huge numbers, and he's not actively playing. And so you kind of expect maybe that this goes down, but then you also expect certain guys like Jorge Soler, who's been very much not the Jorge Soler the Giants expected when they gave him this 3-year deal so far. He was yesterday. I mean, he hit a smash with the bases loaded and nobody out. He hit a home run, but still, it's not been a great start for him. But yeah, 105 weighted runs created plus. Their batting average is 9th. You got to know this. The team batting average for the Giants is 248. I should have led with that. You might think that's horrible. It's 9th best in baseball. The top team is at 258, and the middle team is at like 242, and the bottom team is at 217. So 240 something batting average, not bad, and above average if it's not in the low 240s. Their on-base percentage as a team is 7th best at 317. It kind of blows my mind. I look at 317 and I think that's not very good. It's 7th highest in baseball. So their slugging, this is going to be not in the top. Yeah, it's 16th though. It's kind of in the middle at 384. Isolated power is 24th. So that's a better indicator of power than slugging, because the slugging number is inflated by the batting average being towards the top, which kind of singles are influencing that. Giants' strikeout rate as a team is the 9th lowest at 20.9%, and their walk rate as a team is the 12th highest. But again, like certain guys like Jung-Hoo Lee is influencing that strikeout rate number, and missing him for the rest of the season, which is just tragic. I still can't believe it, really. Stinks, and maybe that strikeout rate, when it's all said and done, is going to look higher. Their batting average on balls in play is 9th highest, and that's kind of a sustainability indicator. Base running, they're at minus 0.7 runs above average per Fangraphs, which is basically kind of right in the middle of the pack. There are some teams that have been really bad on the bases, and some teams that have been really good, and the Giants are kind of right in the middle. And defense, Fangraphs DEF metric has them kind of right in the middle of the pack as well. This is one that I would defer to StatCast on. I want to look at outs above average, and I will in just a second here. I seem to have lost the page, but outs above average or just outs above average for teams. We're going to look at that in just a moment. The Giants are 10th best with 7 outs above average as a team, 10th best, and that doesn't account for catchers. And in terms of catchers, let's see, catcher framing, Patrick Bailey's strike rate on borderline pitches is 3rd highest in baseball. And so he was, I think, number 1 last season, and here he is number 3 this season. And his pop time is 2nd highest in Major League Baseball. And so Patrick Bailey defensively, his blocking is like his least favorable attribute, although no, okay, I can't even find him. I don't even see him on the list. He's not at the I can't find him, but there he is. He's kind of middle of the pack. He's 40th out of 65 qualified catchers in framing, blocking. So Bailey, of course, great defensively, and then the rest of the team, like top 10 was it, with 7 outs above average. And pitching wise as a team, this is where I think it surprises some people. Maybe not, because I've been talking about it all year. But if you're new to the show, maybe it will surprise you. But the Giants' earned run average as a team is 26th highest in baseball. And so there you go. Like, if you want to point to anything, it's actually been the pitching, I would say. 4.47 ERA. Only 4 teams have a higher ERA. The Angels, the Marlins, the White Sox, and the Rockies. And those are like 4 of the worst teams in baseball there. And so there's no reason the Giants should be there. Like, their pitchers are much better than that. And the peripheral numbers kind of back that up. Their fielding independent pitching is 14th, so more middle of the pack. And their expected fielding independent pitching is 6th best. And then the Sierra number, which I don't totally understand, but I know is another kind of, it kind of takes a lot into account, and it's 9th best. And so Giants pitching has allowed the highest batting average on balls in play in baseball. I keep saying that number should come down, and it should, and it hasn't yet. But that's why, with 99 games left, I would put money on that number coming down. It's at, I think, 316 right now. Normally the Rockies are going to allow the highest because of playing in Denver. It's actually 315. I apologize. Rockies are next at 314. And then the next closest team is at 304. So the Giants are like more than 10 points higher than any team that's not the Rockies. And the Rockies always have a huge disadvantage here because of playing half their games at Coors Field. And so there's no reason the Giants should be the worst in the league at this. And this is like luck / sustainability to me, to allow a 315 batting average on balls in play. So that's good news. I would expect the pitching to improve from an ERA perspective. If we just simply break it down really quick into starters versus relievers, Giants starters have an ERA of 4.46, which is 23rd. Fielding independent pitching of where are they? Of 3.96, which is 15th, right in the middle. Expected fielding independent pitching of 3.87, 15th, right in the middle. And then if we look at their relievers, their ERA as a relief staff is 25th. So both the bullpen and the starters have been bottom 5-ish in terms of ERA. Fielding independent pitching for the relievers is 16th, again, right in the middle at 3.86. Expected fielding independent pitching is 4th best. There you go. So that tells you something. Like, we should expect the bullpen. I mean, this number is kind of, I'd have to explain what it is, but essentially there's some weirdness going on with their pitching, and just we should kind of expect fewer runs to be allowed by the Giants than there have been so far. But it is what it is. At this point, their pitching is allowing a lot of runs, and their offense has been above average. Their defense has been above average, and hopefully they can just put it all together and win some games. So that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Every dayers tomorrow, like I said, either a crossover or a mailbag. Look out on Twitter for the prompt in case it is a mailbag. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much, so thank you in advance, and thank you to everyone who's done so already. I can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.